Wow. Ooh. It's a
Hello, readers and listeners and watchers. Welcome to Literary as Feck.
Come on, Gav. You're not allowed to have your dignity remain intact. Do a spooky Halloween noise, for fuck's sake.
Ooh.
There we go. Brilliant.
Yes.
Good. It's good when we all look like tools, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's bad
So,
when it's just me. Um,
yeah, it's the second of our Halloween literary sex. We talked a couple of Ramsey Campbell's not too long ago, actually,
mhm.
and now we were set to do a double bill, but the second half of our double bill, me and Nick couldn't get to in time. So I would
not,
recommend.
not, not in time. We couldn't get to because a bunch of turd nuggins decided to take out archive.org for their own shits and giggles and screw those people.
There we go.
Um,
I believe that's copyright Nick for the new word turd nuggins as well. I don't think that's ever been spoken by man or beast. Uh,
hmm. So yes, we had intended to read a Sean Hudson uh under what's his, somebody Blake
Nick
is this
Blake.
Nick Blake, yeah, good name. And so yes, the Chainsaw Terror, but sadly couldn't get to it. So maybe at some point in the future we will.
But meanwhile, we'll send you over to. I'll put a couple of links actually to when we get to the film version of the book we're going to be talking about.
This one.
There's it's I'll send a link to Gav's blog post on that and his blog post on Chainsaw Terror, aka Come the Night, because they're both blinding reads.
Mhm.
Speaking of blinding reads, so Simon Raven's Doctors Wear Scarlet is what we're
Mhm.
talking about. Um, Simon Raven, kind of an interesting fella, huh?
Mhm.
I think so. We read, well, me and I think you read it somewhere else, right, Gav? But me and Nick got the Kindle with a introduction by Kim Newman, which is quite interesting. My
Mhm.
favorite Simon Raven anecdote is the one about someone he'd got pregnant, right? And he decided to want nothing to do with it. So while he was away, like in the army or something, the the woman in question who gave birth to the baby sent a letter asking, for some form of alimony or something. To which he replied, I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines of, "Sorry, don't have any money. Suggest eat baby."
Yes, and yeah, in fact, it was even more terse. It was just sorry, no money. Suggest eat baby.
Yeah.
Very
I don't,
very Swiftian wit.
I don't remember. I don't know much about his private life, but I do remember someone quipping that Simon Raven makes William Burroughs look like Father of the Year. Make of that what you will.
Um,
Yes, yeah, no, kind of, yeah, and definitely an interesting fella, and a man who wrote the screenplay for the film version of Unman, Wittering, and Zygo, right? Which me and Ron talked about not that long ago on one of our shows, and also uh, added to the On Her Majesty's Secret Service screenplay as well. He wrote
right.
some stuff for that, and some books as well, which do sound kind. I'm kind of quite interested to read some more. Have either of you read any other Simon Raven books other than this one? No, me neither. But I'm kind of keen after this one because I actually liked quite a bit, much more than I expected. Doctors Wear Scarlet.
Hmm.
Before we kind of get into it, am I alone here, or were we all kind of, did we enjoy it, or find it boring, or just a kind of brief little upfront opinion?
Gab, you go first.
Well, no, I did enjoy it surprisingly. I mean, even though I initially thought this would be like really out of my comfort zone.
Mm,
Short books about people being killed by chainsaws and giant praying mantis.
right. There's no bikers called uh, Dong or Fuckwit or something in this.
Well, no, it's actually I think that's what surprised me is that when it goes dark, it goes really dark. In those moments when it's like I was thinking like for when it was written, there's some really
1960.
ugly stuff that happens. One scene in particular, I'm sure we'll talk about later on. But I was like, Jesus. Um,
Yeah,
and
what I was surprised by it as well is the fact that even though it somehow manages that trick of, because you know up front it's a novel about vampirism, right? So you're thinking, well, why bother try and keep putting it back as a reveal, as it were? Because I'm not
mhm.
going to be shocked when you reveal it, because I know. But somehow it still is quite shocking because it takes its time. So when you see, it's not like when you've read it in 100 other books or you've seen it in other films. When the vampirism does occur, it is actually quite grotesque and arresting, right?
Mhm.
So it's weird. It's interesting how it kind of reinvents the the wheel in that way. Um, but anyway, I think. Do you want to do a plot synopsis there, Nick? Do you want to?
Sure. I mean, basically, the story is told from the point of view of a really louche and kind of like unpleasant narrator. So this is something I was when reading the Kim Newman introduction and other things I read. Apparently, like all of the characters in his stories tend to just be like
Him?
versions of himself.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I think so.
Um,
That seems fairly apparent. Yeah,
yeah.
but there's a lot of sympathy. Like even when they're doing horrible things, it's written with a certain amount of relish, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So basically, some kind of detective comes to our narrator and asking questions about his old friend Dick Fountain, which has to be one of the greatest names in literary history for a guy who turns out to be impotent. No wonder he's so fucking angry. His name is Dick Fountain, and he can't maintain a hard-on.
Yeah, he
So
doesn't live up to the packaging, does he?
no. So basically, yeah, this turns out that Dick Fountain's gotten into some kind of trouble over in Greece,
Hmm.
and the Greek authorities. I love all of this stuff. How it's kind of like, yeah, he may be involved in a series of possible uh, child sex abuse and murders. So the Greek government and the British government think it's a good idea to just spirit him back to England and back to his university job or whatever it is.
Well, that's the
Like,
thing, is that that's what's really interesting about it is this Milo, which is at once kind of disgusting but also fascinating. Is obviously if he was just some working class geezer, he'd have just
yeah,
been locked up and have
in a
thrown
Greek
away the
prison.
key, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
but because he's a posho,
George Eastman would have been the next cell, like, you know.
yeah, it would have been Paul L. Smith from Midnight Express or something, right? Um,
Yeah.
but because he's a posho who goes to Lancaster College in Oxford, yeah, it's they take their time and they let him escape and island hop and go about and stuff.
Hmm.
And obviously his chums have to go and rescue the poor fellow, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Um, so one of the things that's interesting about the book versus the film is like they don't get to Greece literally to the midpoint of the book, basically, right? There's a lot of kind of fleshing out and backstory around how the narrator first met Dick Fountain when they were
hmm.
like kids, and he was basically fagging for him or whatever that
Whatever
term
that
is,
means.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Also, the
Good
thing that
example.
the film doesn't have, why is the policeman's desk so covered in flies the whole time? He keeps swatting these fucking flies, right? I was like, is his office just covered in shit or something? Why are there so many flies in his fucking office?
Um, so yeah, so basically the beginning of the book we get a lot more backstory about who Dick Fountain is and how he's kind of he's a strange fellow. On the one hand, he's a strong academic and he's good at sports and he's kind of like, seems like quite a so an all rounder, student athlete of the year kind
Yeah,
of.
he's very thank you, school bully.
Yes. And then but then there's a kink to him. There's a twist that basically our narrator kind of keeps alluding to, but he's not quite sure. Nobody can quite put a finger on what it is about him there's something wrong slightly. Um and so yeah, this detective tries to pull it out. eventually they decide we're all going to have to go to Greece and get him home. So there's like a military guy, right? The one that what's his face from the Avengers plays in the movie
Right.
version.
Right.
And yeah, they all go over to Greece to try to find him, and it turns out that he's involved in a sadomasochistic, vampiristic relationship with this Greek woman who's been drinking his blood and involving him in all kinds of Chryseis in defiling rights and stuff like that. So they knock her off. She ends up
It's
killing.
seeded along the way that he can't get it up, like you said, he's impotent, right?
Yes.
So this
He's
is
sublimated his sexuality into this other
plus
act.
as well. It's important that back at home, he's feeling oppressed by his fiance's father, who seems
overbearing
to
dad.
laid out his life in front of him. So, yeah, one of the AKs for the film, which seems odd unless you know the story, is Freedom Seeker, right? And he does at the end of it.
But they're trying to get a sort of counterculture audience with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
But it does come directly from the end of the book, though, right?
Yeah, it's earned, I think. I mean, the book does seem to anticipate some of that stuff, given when it's written, but it does this idea of...
That's really strong as well. What I really like about the book is the strong, and actually the film does do it to a certain extent, the real strong sense of place, either when they're in Greece.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, fuck, I can't believe I still haven't been to Greece. I should really go to Greece. Have either of you been to Greece?
No.
I'd love to go to Greece. Anyway.
Sicily, but...
and also, within the halls of Lancaster College as well, right? Like all the old kind of traditions, like the smashing the glasses and all that. And you're reading it, and at the same time you're thinking, these posh fucks, but at the same time thinking, God, I'd love to go there. Like, it'd be really cool to just see that one time, right? To hang out with these kind of posh gits.
Study back for a day.
Yeah, whatever that entails.
I think this is an old Blackadder episode where somebody refers to like you bending boys over and sticking hot crumpets in their bums, using them as like a what do I think you put toast in, like a toast rack, basically, right? Yes, I do remember, the burning cheeks of shame or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think Blackadder and a lot of BBC comedy actually kind of comes from
that footlights
yes
thing, but and so you know what the weirdest thing about this book for me is, it's like have you ever read Kingsley Amos's Lucky Jim?
No,
because it kind of plumbs the same territory, but for comic, but there's a thread of kind of anger there as well about this whole idea of this older generation of academics being vampires, kind of like sucking the life out of younger people who actually have their own ideas, but then they're forced. And then
the interesting thing here as well, that's one element. There's a lot of elements that come together. There's that, but there's also the treating of vampirism as a kind of weird sexually transmitted disease or something as well. That's kind of fascinating. Also, when they're roaming about the Greek islands, and there's this couldn't help thinking about Anthropophagus.
Oh yes, definitely. I was like, George Eastman would have been nice. It would have been nice if he showed up in the movie.
Some kind of ancient evil stalking these islands,
Quite ahead of its time as well. I mean, this book was like from 1960. I think cinema was still sort of tied to sort of gothic horror and contemporary vampires.
Yeah, the book must have been quite as I think you said in your review of it, it's quite the game changer when it was new, right? And I do wonder why it's kind of like, I get the feeling that it's not on that many people's radars. Like, obviously there are some proper horror devotees who know of it, right? But I think even then, the majority of people have probably come through it through the film. That's how I, watched this odd film that wasn't quite satisfying. And then, oh, what's this Doctors Wear Scarlet? That's a curious title. And then you're led back to the book. And I wanted to read this for years actually, but it seemed to be only available as quite expensive old paperbacks. And now there's an affordable Kindle, right? So finally you get to read it, right? But yeah, I get the feeling that it's not necessarily up there on the list on the pantheon of must horror reads, right? And yeah, it might not be total top tier classic, but it's a fucking good vampire novel, isn't it?
Yes, it is really interesting. I mean, and so spoilers, they do spirit him out. They do deal with the vampire girl. They spirit him back, and then the rest of the book is kind of them like, we mustn't upset Dick.
Yes.
We got to keep Dick in a state of calm, because he could go off anytime, and so it was really kind of interesting to read. Yeah, all of that stuff, and so they're really trying to protect him from this overbearing, the guy who wants to be his father-in-law ultimately, right? He's trying to force him to marrying his daughter and forcing him to take over his position at the college and the rest of it. And then they fail to do that spectacularly.
Also worth mentioning that as well as the freedom from academia and there's a thread in it as well. There's a lot of stuff playing around with homoeroticism and the one female character lined up is referred to as like a cow, right? Like there's a lot of, and differently from the film where she goes in the book, like she's totally left out of it's all a boy's own adventure, right? And
yes, and I do like that they constantly stop in the book to be like, oh, we're not gay though.
Yes, they do.
In no way are we gay. However, we're totally gay. Like it's hilariously, but I mean, obviously our author was famously queer, so it's like there's having your cake and eating it too. We're not gay, but this book is the gayest thing you will ever read. And then
I would like to see the Kenneth Anger version of
yes,
for the Damned. That would be quite interesting.
Yes, or Bruce, whatever his name is. But yeah, no. The other thing.
Forsyth.
Yes, exactly. He'd be brilliant.
You've heard it here first.
At the Oxford Dawn.
Bruce Forsyth outdid by.
If you play your cards right. But I don't remember what I was going to say there. But there's some incredibly mean-spirited stuff. There's a part where like some poor char lady comes in with the tea, and they're like, "Fuck off, slattern!" like holy shit, guys. That's
no. It's worse than that. She's referred to as a slattern first, which I thought was a piece of wood or something. But then it's fuck off, slut. It's
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's just interesting as well that goes totally without comment as well. Like the poor girl or just Yep. So that's what I mean. Why the relish with you get the feeling that Simon Raven's kind of there's a little bit of shit stirring going on here, right? On the one hand he's having a go at this, kind of establishment, but at the other hand, he's so relishing what being part of this institution allows him as a privileged white
rich
fellow.
If ever there's been a tough.
Yeah.
I love the fact that apparently he was basically paid a stipend to write under the understanding he wasn't allowed to be anywhere near London because apparently he was such a mess. They were like, we'll pay you to write, but you've got to get out of town. And then there's that scene, right? There's this thing quite late in the book where we flash back to kind of because it's alluded to several times that like he was involved in something very sketchy. What he was in Greece, but we're not quite sure what it is. And when they finally get to what it is, you're like, Jesus.
That's
Yeah.
not.
Which is
It's-
just kind of alluded at in the film, right? Just
Yes.
a little bit.
Oh well, that's, I
you
think the
couldn't really
actress
go
is
there.
shown are quite a bit older, like
Yes.
whereas because I think like in the book they're supposed to be what 12 or something like that, right? This brother and sister. And yeah, it's just I was like, that's very strong. That's strong stuff for 1960.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if there's anything else to say about the book. It's definitely I'm really pleased to have like I didn't expect it to actually be this good. Like I thought it was just going to be a little bit of a curiosity, and I thought it was going to be trashier as well. For some reason in my mind, I had it as like one of those, the books written under the Peter Saxon house name, like Scream and Scream Again, and those kind of. I was expecting something. Like nothing wrong with that. I love Scream Again, the book and the film. But I was thinking it would be something a bit like that. But it's no. It's a proper,
very literary.
well-written book. Yeah. It's literary as feck, in fact, which is why it fits this. Do either of you have any more to say about the book before we move on to the film adaptation?
No.
No, I don't think so. Just yeah, I said it's a strange thing like that kind of mashes up this very specifically, British academic milieu with this crazy story of sadomasochistic, vampiristic Greek sex, and that somehow it does work, and then the extended metaphor of like forms of vampirism, right? Whether that's the old draining the young of their
Mm. Yeah,
Nope.
it could be a mess, couldn't it? It could like
Yeah.
just be a hodgepodge of this and that, and it doesn't hold together. But it's got a strong enough narrative. Like to be honest, when I started it, I didn't expect to. I didn't think it would be quite the page turner that it turned. Like I was really looking forward to reading. Like I read it pretty quickly once I started. Yeah, no,
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
no.
I was speeding through it, yeah, surprised.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasant. See, you don't need chainsaws all the time, and people called dink and butt whistle and stuff like that. I mean, that stuff's good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I will get back to that. I'm sure. But yeah, no, a pleasant read.
The film.
The film, yes. And for those of you who don't speak Irish, that means the film or
Yes.
the movie, I guess.
For you American viewers, yes.
Anyone, Ega, do we know any other
Película, I believe, is the Spanish.
film with two F's in Welsh?
Is it?
Yeah, it's not the proper word.
Of course.
One of those
You guys like to add redundant consonants for some reason.
It's one of those retroactively made Welsh words that, like Japan is Japan.
Okay.
Yes, for no good reason.
Hmm.
Kino is in something.
Yes.
What the fuck are we doing this? You're a twat, Nick. Right. So, when in doubt, blame Nick.
Yes, sir. Always
we're
good.
talking about Incense for the Damned, which is my preferred title and how I first saw it on late night TV, but now seems to be more widely seen under the title Bloodsuckers, but was also Freedom Seeker and Vampire Sacrifice in some territories, and this is the film adaptation of Doctors WEAR SCARLET, as directed by Robert Hartford Davis, except there's no, so apparently he's under the pseudonym Michael Burrows, right? But I actually haven't even seen the director's credit with that pseudonym. Like there's just no director's credit.
I've never seen a version with a director's credit.
No, because I remember, oddly enough, I remember seeing this on TV back in the day when I was a kid and noticing, no director credit. That's weird. Did I miss it? Did it come at the front end or something? But no, I noticed that this time that there just isn't one.
I like Michael Burrows as an alternative to Alan Smithy, because it really sounds like somebody's trying to hide. Like
Right.
Yeah, it's a good one if you're trying to
Martin Mole.
exactly.
Although it all seems to be sort of relatively well known that about half a Davis directed it. I mean, even from when it came out, I think there were still like reviews that mentioned him being the director. So I don't think it was ever much of a secret.
No, but he did disown the film, right?
Yes.
And claims it was unfinished, which, I mean, to be honest, is
It feels that way to me.
well, to be honest, it's also semi his fault, right? Because apparently, from what I've read, he was a little bit of a naughty boy when out on location, right? A lot of substances were consumed during the making of this film, which is one of the reasons, probably the main reason actually, it just stopped. It halted filming halfway through in 1969. They were in Greece and Cyprus, and the production just ground to a halt. And then
Is this because of Patrick McNee? Was he deep into the cocaine again?
he was too busy avenging.
Oh, okay.
This was just after he finished his run on Avengers, right? I guess he was looking around for something to go and said, "Do you fancy to come to Greece and Cyprus and take lots of cocaine and be an action hero on a donkey?" And he was like, "Yes,
Yeah. Sounds good.
you're talking my language." So yeah, and then I guess the producers somehow tried to paper over the cracks by adding a narration by Alex Davian and these weird psychedelic, very dated, although fun, psychedelic kind of
Orgy
orgy
scenes.
scenes with Francois Pascal and taking some aspirin and some instrumental psych rock, which is quite
Yeah,
nice. I quite like
that
that.
was all good. Yeah,
Um,
and that kaleidoscopic thing that they used to do in the 60s and 70s
yeah,
to
which means drugs have been
drugs.
taken. Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny actually, just a couple of years after, I was thinking Nicholas Roeg was making films with all those mad fast editing stuff. I mean, it was easy, right? And you're thinking, did people like just immediately assume they were high watching Walkabout or something because it was a shortcut for you are high, right? Rather than a filmmaking technique. Anyway, yes, taken from the book, which we just talked about.
Well, taken from about a third of the book, I feel. I feel like a lot of what's in the book is actually hits the cutting room floor.
Although it has to be said, what is there apart from some big deviations, like we'll mention? It's quite close to the spirit of the book.
Yes, but I feel like I wouldn't have
Doesn't
known
work.
what I wouldn't, and I feel like I wouldn't have known. Having read the book first and then watching the film, I felt like I get what they're getting at. But I have a feeling if I watched this film first, I would have been like,
Yeah. Well,
what?
I think both me and Gav did watch the film first when we were wee ones on late night television,
I
right?
felt like someone like skim reading the first 100 pages of the book and like compressing it in the first couple of minutes of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad it led me to the book because the films have always fascinated me over the years just because of that, like the slapdash nature of it. And it always felt as if there's I thought, oh, there's a good film in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we have the longest edit anyone's ever assembled, which is just shy of 89 minutes, you realize, oh, well, no, there isn't really. But it's the book. That's the thing. That's
You have to sort of go back to the book to understand the film.
yeah. But I'm glad it's been a roundabout way to get there, but I'm glad I've got to the book. But now I can kind of give up on if you said I've always kind of gone back to the film and where's there's something good here, but where is it? And now I finally found the book. So I need not rewatch Incense for the Damned ever again, I think, because I have seen it about 3 or 4 times now in my life. I think that's probably
Enough.
yeah.
And do we know what Simon Raven actually made of the film? I
don't know. I have no idea. If you can sit still to watch a film, I don't know. Like
It's quite a visible film on video on TV back then, but I assume he must have had ample opportunities to watch it, but I don't think it was on record. But I mean, his name's still on the film.
Yeah,
If you hate
yeah.
it, half of like that.
I remember it turning up. I think it was on ITV, right? I think.
Yeah, so I'll alternate between ITV and BBC.
Yeah, I think I saw it on ITV and in what I now understand would have been a longer version than was actually on video, right? That the BBFC did for various things. Yeah, it was one of those times. It happened now and again, like when they accidentally showed Enter the Dragon with all the nunchucks still in it and stuff like that, right? These treasured moments of childhood in Fortress Britain.
Don't understand why nunchucks were an issue. Like, why didn't they take them out of the teenage? Well, first of all, you had the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
Hero Turtles, yes. You could
Ninja.
You could just hear the slight inflection in the re-recorded Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
just
you could buy like Child's Toys version of nunchucks and ninja stars and all the sort of weaponry that were cut from films for adults.
Yeah. It was most peculiar. But anyway, so written by Julian Moore, who is one of the writers of the source. I don't know if it's a novel or story that the film Express Bongo was based on. Produced by Graham Harris, who also backed The Beast in the Cellar and What the Peeper Saw. And executive produced by Peter Newbrook, who of course directed the extremely underrated The Asphyx, which I'm pretty sure Gav is a fan of The Asphyx.
I've never heard of it before. And is that spelled ASSFIX or ASPHIX?
It's ASS-FIX.
Really?
No, it's
No.
ASPHYX. Yes.
YX. Okay, all right.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's kind of a proto Ghostbusters about a man who builds a machine that can capture ghosts.
Really?
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay.
So
all right.
1972. Sorry, Gav, you were saying you were or were not a fan of the Asphyx?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a very underseen, I think, like of that bunch of, obviously people they watch their Hammers and their Amicuses and then they spread out to, Tygon and things like Incense of the Damned and Scream and Scream Again, and Asphyx it still seems to be a slightly underseen one, I feel.
First time hearing of it, so
yeah, no, it's a good one. I would recommend it. So yes, and so as in so Patrick Mower is Richard Fountain, right?
he's not bad. He's got a kind of a feral look about him. He's got the kind of flared nostrils, and he's I mean, he has to spend about half of the movie or more just kind of like.
Yeah, it's pretty good casting. It's been
but then the rest of it, he's a bit more active.
It's been a while since I've seen it, so I can't confirm. But I remember when reading around, someone pointed out that he plays almost exactly the same character in The Devil Rides Out.
Oh, well, he's also comatose for half the film?
Not that so much. It's the Freedom Seeker, I suppose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, so he's the Dick Fountain character. Alex Davion. So I was a bit confused. So in the book, this character, the Seymour character, is like he's a student, right, as well.
They were student friends, and he was like 50 years older.
But I get the feeling that this guy though he looks a bit too old to be.
But they've incorporated elements of what the Inspector Tyrell.
Yes.
Simplify.
And then now he has a black friend.
Yes, it was the same friend, but they never specify his race in the.
Although at some point they do talk about how his African background might be in the
movie.
Yes,
in the novel I think we're probably right in assuming that in the novel he is white, but yes.
Although to be honest, it's one of those bit of casting changes that actually kind of I can kind of see whether that kind of works.
Yeah, it works fine.
Yeah. because that would be in keeping with Richard
Yeah.
Franklin trying to, you know,
Rebellious nature, yes.
yes.
And the whole point of that friendship, even in the novel, is that it was a friendship that was going to be frowned on by the dean or whatever the fuck he was. The
Right. Right.
yeah.
But the crucial difference here is they take the fiance along, right? As
Right. So that there is a woman in the
Yes.
story, other than, I guess, the vampire.
they take Madeline Hind. So that subtly kind of changes everything. That she's
Well, I think she was sort of an actress who got the director to sort of promote at that start of his last film, Smashing Bird. I used to know.
Yes, Patrick Moore also in that as well.
Yeah.
And Patrick McNee plays the British military attaché. I think he's enjoying himself, isn't he? Patrick McNee.
Oh yeah.
He's having a good time with it. Like
Yes.
he seems to be. I've come out of the experience best. I'm guessing he just had a nice holiday
In Greece, yeah.
Yeah,
And then, but he didn't have to shoot anything back in England, but he gets to avoid the entire last act.
Yeah, he probably never saw it, but if you interviewed him, because he's such a nice, a wonderful film, had a great time. Yes. And then Peter Cushing plays the well, in this, I can't remember in the book, was he the foreign secretary in the book as well? He's the foreign secretary in the film as well as
I don't think so. I think he's just
whatever.
I think he's just the
Madeline Hind's dad. And God bless Peter Cushing. I mean, he's always top notch, and because I feel he's slightly miscast.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think of.
He's not what I saw at all. I didn't see anyone so kind of ascetic looking.
I was thinking, it's got to be
chubbier kind of,
like a Nigel Bruce,
yes,
buffoonish kind of.
Yeah. Or Denholm Elliott for some reason. I saw something in that. Yeah.
Which, as we know, Darren has fond memories of masturbating about. I can't remember how that private joke started, but it did somewhere along the line.
I assume it's got to do with to the devil a daughter. I'm 99% sure.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from.
That's right. You've nailed it. We need not go further for legal reasons.
No.
But yes, God damn him though. Peter Cushing's still really fucking good. Like the scenes he has. He's like, God damn it, Peter, you're fucking great as always.
Yeah, you're too good to be in this, to be honest.
You might be miscast, but brilliant job. Edward Woodward as the academic expert.
He's not bad. I mean, he does a good job of channeling the character from the book, who's also quite skeevy, and so does the guy who plays whatever Honeydew or whatever his name is.
Well, he's hardly in it, though, right? And it's what's him? William Mervyn, right? And actually, you can tell he's been, because when he turns up at the end of the film, he has a meaningful exchange to look with Peter Cushing, and your response is, "Who's that fucking guy?" Like, if you hadn't read the book, you certainly wouldn't know. Why is he suddenly getting screen time? That would be. I think that's probably one of the most confusing bits in the film if you haven't read the book, right?
Yes, but he is good. I mean, what brief moments he has on screen, he does actually channel the book character really well, I think. The kind of, oh dear boy, kind of slightly camp thing. He does it well.
Right. Got David Lodge as well. Of course, we should mention Imogen Hassel.
Yes.
Chrysias, the panty flashing.
Yes. Well, you can see.
If this was a Japanese anime, this would be called fan service, right? Her scene when she's running up
the mountain in the tiny short skirt. Yes.
Yeah. Valerie von Ost from the Satanic Rites of Dracula is in it. Did you notice? I'm sure Gav did. Did you notice during the orgy sequence as well? A plastic mask straight out of Don't Open Till Christmas. is on screen for a few seconds.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so no, it is an absolute mess of a film. It has to be said. And so we'll get to your thoughts in a minute, because this is the first time you'd ever seen this film, right?
Yeah.
So how did you feel? Because I knew you, Gav, you have a similar history with it as I was mentioning about like seeing it and it's not that good, but kind of feeling as if something good is in there somewhere. And for me now, I'm like, okay, I'm done with the film because I found the book. Was that a similar? How did you feel about it watching it for whatever the second, third?
Yeah, I mean, I have sort of some affection for the film and a bit of a history of it. But I think once you read the book, you understand what the film was trying to say, but I think you also realise what a mess it made of saying it.
Right. Yeah. Do you think you'll watch it again?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm not like, I've never watched it. Like, I can see me, but what I mean is, I don't have the need to watch it again, like
No.
I used to have, because I was trying to figure it out, right? Like now I figured it out, so the
Yeah,
impetus.
all the pieces fit now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Nick, you were coming at this totally, and plus you'd read the book first, so
Yes.
yeah.
Which
So,
I think-
how did you feel about the film?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely recognized that it was a mess. I think what you guys have said. Like I do think that you could see the kind of the papering over the cracks with that kind of it reminded me of like that shitty Harrison Ford voiceover that mars the original version of
Do androids dream of incest?
well,
Incensed sheep, I think.
that's the one. Yes. Yeah. Where they were like, oh, this is not, they've realized that this is not making sense, so they're going to try to fill in the gaps with somebody just talking over the top.
Oh, that's true. And it's worth saying as well, that's from the get-go, because the opening scene is explaining who everyone is, and you know, this film's in trouble.
Something's gone wrong here.
Yeah.
And yet, so I read reviews, people complain about that opening orgy scene, but I think it's great.
It's fun, at least it's fun.
Give me 7 minutes of fucking kaleidoscope and boobs and like
the weirdest bit is the feet.
Yes, that's great. If anything, the kind of film settles down a bit after that, and I was like, oh, it's not as weird as it was at the beginning when all that was going down.
Right.
And excellent location photography, all the stuff. I think both locations are done well. Although the one thing I was missing was there's a really gross scene in the book where all the young academics are like, it's like a very Roman orgy. They're all just like throwing up on the floor while this like party is going on, and like again the char women are coming in and like mopping up their vomit. And I thought that would have been an effective thing to have actually seen in the film in those final moments. But yeah, no, I thought that the location stuff was all good.
I think they just made that up, Dick. They're not vomiting. They're throwing their glasses.
No. Go back and read that section again. There's there's definitely said directly that people are throwing up.
Do you remember the vomit, Gav?
Possibly.
I can.
Diplomatic answer.
I will send you later on. Well, I'll put it under the video. I'll send you the page number.
Okay. The vomit. If you want the vomit. Do you want to go?
Not only did I read it.
Yes.
Not only did I read it, but it shows up in a couple of the reviews of the book that I read
I have
as
to
well.
admit that did pass me by. I remember them throwing the glasses and
yes.
Yeah.
And then later on, people doing it again, not understanding that was done.
And apparently, it's good luck. It's good luck to be banged in the head by one of these glasses.
with one.
Which sounds to me like something they made up to tell the poor people who get injured, right? Don't you know that's awfully good luck, you peasant?
There's and I think there's I think the performances are kind of variable, right? I think like certain like we said, McNee is really doing quite an impressive job, as is
he knows how to ride a donkey.
Sorry?
He knows how to ride a donkey at top speed.
Certainly does.
Yeah.
But then some of the other performances are a bit more ropey, and some of the fight choreography and stuff is a little
it's a bit
rough looking. Yeah. But no, overall it was like and also it was to me, I didn't mind that it was like a nice 89 minutes. That was about right. Um, I
So
don't know if it would have been helped by another 30 minutes.
So you were saying, Gav, in your review as well, I was wondering who clued you into this, that apparently, if you can understand Greek, that the residents of the island are extremely racist to Johnny Secca, right? Like,
Well, it's sort of like that old woman while it's like yelling
yeah,
while they're beating him up. Yeah, apparently someone who was fluent in Greek once told me that what she's saying in that scene is like really, really racist.
right. She's using a lot of N words and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that sort of goes over most people's heads.
Well, yeah, I certainly wouldn't have picked up
Yeah.
that. But I'm wondering, would that have been deliberate? Like, is the character supposed to be massively racist, or was it just a racist actress taking advantage?
Getting away with it, yeah.
It would be interesting to know, right?
Well, that's one of my favorite parts of there's a documentary called Real Engine about like
Oh,
Native
yes.
Americans on screen, and there's a part in that where they show when they're speaking in their native language that they're basically just insulting the white actors, and they have no idea
Yeah.
because nobody on set knows
There's
Cree
a,
or languages.
there's a film, I can't remember which one it was. Billy Drago was cast in it as like a Crow Indian or something, which he isn't.
Right.
But he got apparently he went to the audition and the guy said, "Oh, hey, yeah, Billy, so can you speak Crow Indian?" And he just wanted the job, and he went, "Of course, you know." And they said, "Speak some," and he just spoke some bollocks around it. And they said, "That's fucking great, man!" And he got the job. And then apparently, to his credit, he went away and learnt his lines in Crow, and the person who taught him, like, deliberately got him to say an extremely dirty joke. So
Oh, nice.
apparently, when they took that film around, like a traveling, they went to like different reservations and showed it. Like it always got big laughs.
Right.
Totally went over everyone else's head. So another reason to love Billy Drago, as if we needed one. Yes. So
I have two last thoughts. Has anybody
yeah, go
seen
for it.
has anybody seen Gonks Go Beat, the 1964?
I never have. I've always wanted to. I have a
Oh,
feeling
yeah,
Gav has.
I have, yeah, it was on Bravo in the 1990s.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I watched the trailer for it today.
Yeah,
As I
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
digging into other Robert Hartford Davis films, and
Yeah, Peter.
I'd forgotten about Gonks even as like a concept. Like,
Yeah.
and what a weird mashup to like
But
make
I
a
don't
science
think it's not
fiction.
those gonks. It's not those gonks. I don't think it's
But it is. I mean, so I mean, I don't know, but it's a version of Gonks. Apparently, there was a '60s version of Gonk toys in the mid '60s that are.
yeah, but it's I don't think it's the gonks because the gonk isn't it like two islands, warring islands, like Beatsville versus Rocktown or
And there's
Something
like, yeah, and what's his face from Kenneth Connor from the Carry On films plays some
yeah.
sort of space ambassador or whatever.
But
But
it's a fascinating film, music because it's got like Ginger Baker's Army and people like that in it.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
Lulu's in there.
no, I've always wanted to see it, and I missed it, and I've got the copy, but the thing is, there's a Blu-ray out there, so I'm kind of waiting, and I think I'll see it in high def. I think
Mhm.
if I'm going to watch it. But no, but more interestingly, I was going to bring up Robert Hartford Davis actually. Even if you feel let down by Instance for the Damned, don't let it put you off watching both Corruption
All right.
with Peter Cushing and Beware My Brethren, which is the films he made either side, because both of those, I think Gav will agree, are worth watching, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially Corruption in its laser killer longer cut, which is, yeah, I don't think you'll see Peter Cushing in a sleazier film, right? Like it's quite the revelation. And I remember Beware My Brethren, which is AKA The Fiend, being really interesting as well, about this kind of serial killer like our friend Gav there, who like edits in the screams of his victims to like he makes compositions like in his basement or something, right? And
Okay.
he does like this music concrete mixed with it's a strange little film, but very interesting.
Fucked up Pierre Henry. So there was one thing I have a quote that I did highlight.
Is there vomit in it? There better be fucking
No,
vomit.
it's not. Sadly, if I'd known that you would question the vomit scenes. No, it's quite early in the book, and they're talking. It says all of which still left one with the question of what ought to be done. If Piers was right about the pattern of Richard's behavior in Greece, then clearly the sooner he was got out of Greece, the better. And this is what that's what I highlighted. People who think they are looking for abundance of life and who are not too certain or too scrupulous as to the best methods of finding it should not be left alone in distant countries. And it made me think of a friend of mine I used to have a long, long time ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Before the vampire woman got him.
That's yes. Exactly.
Wish you were here. Nintendo tapes rented. Oh no, that was the other show. That's
no, that's not going to make any sense.
It's been a long night, lads. So, also worth mentioning, if you're into your Doom sludge metal, check out Electric Wizard's 2014 album Time to Die for the opening track, Incense for the Damned.
Oh.
Yeah. So we done or what?
I think so. I would definitely, I mean, you know, I would recommend this. I think this was a cracking good read. And as a really an interesting mashup of these two things that I wouldn't have ever seen together before. This idea of this Oxbridge stuff with this pagan vampire sex, sadomasochistic stuff. It's a heady brew and it works.
Yeah.
And Simon Raven, was that his real name too, or is that I mean, if that's his real name, that's great. Simon Raven and Dick Fountain. That's quite a it's quite a pair.
Right, off we go then. And just to confuse matters, I'm going to sign off with Gav's Arrivederci.
Farewell.
Auf Wiedersehen.